You're listening to the Fezcast, the Saracens fans podcast bringing you the independent and unhinged views of the voices in our heads, as well as those of our special guests. To get in touch with us, find the Fezcast on social media and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube and more. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy this week's show.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Hello everyone. With no men's or women's games at the weekend, we've got a bit of a different show for you today. Ampthill had a good win up at Coventry, but none of us were there, so there's nothing we can say about that. But luckily the SSA had a very entertaining evening last week, featuring a Q&A which we recorded with their sponsored players, Akina Gondwe and Louie Johnson. Later on I'll be joined by Barry and Ed Price from the Cherry Jam Gloucester fan podcast to look forward to our tricky Easter Saturday home tie. But first, we're off to the Metro Italian restaurant at the golf complex next to StoneX for an evening with Louie and Akina. Apologies for the sound quality at times, especially with some of the audience questions, but thanks to the marvels of artificial intelligence, I think we have more than enough good stuff and I hope you enjoy it.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Just so you're warned, we've got a very sensitive mic here, so if anybody wants to say anything rude about Jez Denton, it will be picked up. And I promise you it'll be in the podcast next week. If you want to say anything rude about me, that will be a complete waste of time. So thank you very much for Louie and Akina for being here. Our current SSA quiz champions. I want to ask you both, who is the intelligent, knowledgeable one?
I think it depends on the subject. Because there was a couple of rogue sporting questions, and that was Louie. And then there was a couple of geography questions, that was me. But we also had a dentist and somebody else on my team who pretty much carried us most of it.
You've got a geography degree or something, haven't you?
I do, yeah.
Oh, well, that's cheating. There we go. Louie, I want to apologise because I've got a friend who knows way too much about me and he knows enough to blackmail me. So I've got a question I've got to ask you, I'm afraid, because otherwise my liberty is in danger. But so here we go. Is it true what your mum says that your brother is a much better player than you, but he's lazy?
They'd love to know who asked that.
Oh, no, you'd probably hit them, wouldn't you?
He's younger than me. I'd say he's more talented than me. Yeah. I'm not going to call him lazy. What he chooses to do with his talent's up to him. But he's a talented player. He's at Loughborough Union.
Right, okay. Akina, you've had a pretty interesting journey to Saris, haven't you? I think you started in Kent, was it? A very fine county, playing rugby there.
Well, I started in Beckenham.
Beckenham, well, that is Kent, but it's all
It's London to me. But
as you say, a geography degree in Worcester, which is why you ended up playing there. And of course, we know what happened. So you came here on a short-term contract, I think, and picked up within about 2 games.
Yeah, we were just speaking about it on the team. The loan thing was basically for the outwards. I came here, I was here permanently, but essentially because the club was still in administration, if I had terminated my contract with Worcester, I would have lost out on the money I was owed. So to play for another club, I had to go on loan. But obviously I did sign a long-term contract on day one, but to the public, I was on loan.
So telling everybody that now doesn't mean everyone's going to come after you for that money. No. So Louie, it's been, I think it's fair to say, been an incredibly frustrating season for you, I imagine. I mean, friends of mine who went to the Bedford pre-season game said that you came on and had a really brilliant impact on the game, and then you got the bicep injury at the same time when Fergus had an injury and then Loz had an injury. It must have been very frustrating to be sitting on the sideline, seeing various fly halves come in or even shorter than me. And
it was frustrating. It was weird because I did my bicep, so it's our injury cover who then ended up doing his bicep. So we had injury cover for the injury cover come in. But it was frustrating because, like you say, felt like I was doing all right, was developing a bit of momentum, and then I tore my bicep 3 months out, and now I've come back and it's been good, but game time's tough. I knew it would be coming here, like it's competitive, and you've got to back your first choice and give him the game time that's required to make him feel comfortable, and I've just got to keep pushing, and hopefully one day when I get my shot, I'll be given that support and do the most of it.
And does it feel like you're at the level you were pre-season, or you still got a way to go?
Yeah, I feel good. I just need consistent game time. That's why I'm going to Ampthill this week to go with a bunch of the young lads and get 8 minutes and be ready when my chance comes. But yeah, no, I feel good. I feel ready to go, and hopefully, like, telling the season get this and that.
Well, based on playing at an oncoming Toulon Hurricane, I'm sure it won't be too long before that happens.
No, yeah, it was tough because I came on with like 15 minutes ago and they ended up scoring like 5 tries in 15 minutes. I won't say it's all my fault. But just the nature of it, yeah, I came on, the team was tired, and it was a cool experience, but it was a tough moment to come on.
Okay, well, that's probably enough for me for the time being. Has anybody got a question that they'd like to ask?
I got 2 silly questions. There's rumours going around you're moving from the Albanians. Do you know anything about that? I don't know, where are you moving?
I've heard the rumours that it would potentially be somewhere around here, but like you speak to like Alex Lewin, who's been here for 20 years, and he said he heard those rumours 20 years ago. I'm not you heard anything? That's all I've heard.
I was moving the training ground, but I think
I think they have persisted. Yeah,
Well, we don't train where the men train.
You train here.
We train here, yeah. So I guess it wouldn't make a difference to us.
Alex, so you got a question?
Yeah, so, if you could play any other position, what would you play?
So often. 100%.
Are you good there?
I'm just small enough.
Well, I've heard you're faster than all the backs. Is that true?
No. Maybe 5 meters, but anything over that, maybe.
Mark, most professional sports people are annoyingly good at lots of different sports. So, growing up, what was your other sports that you played?
I actually played netball. Like, I played netball from 12 years old till I was like 16. And that was like because it was like in school, that was like the only option for girls, obviously. But I enjoyed it at the same time. So like I tried to go, I was going far with it, but then I picked up rugby. So it was like pick a sport. But I also did athletics as well. So like I did netball in school and then did athletics outside of school.
Yeah. Football was big for me. I probably would have made it pro if I hadn't hurt my knee. Shows rugby. But yeah, no, football was big, and then like athletics, I did like 800 meters. My dad had a sports day record that I hadn't been beaten for like 30 odd years, so he kind of trained me up, and then I ended up beating his record. So it's about
800 meters. So you didn't have a full length of the fixed try yet?
no, but yeah.
Plenty of time.
Who are your sporting heroes? Who inspired you?
Oh, I think when I was younger, a sporting hero of mine was Serena Williams. Just because like she was like probably the most dominant female athlete like when I was younger. But then when I started rugby, I think my favourite player was always Richie McCaw. Like everyone used to like talk so badly about him, like, oh, is he cheater? Oh, he breaks the rules. But I was like, yeah. Like he obviously was. I think at the time, like there was a stat. It was like he was the most winning captain at the time, and I was like, everyone thinks you're so bad and like you're so successful. You're clearly good at something. So like I thought like that to me was really inspiring.
Yeah, I'd probably say Owen Farrell. To be fair, like he dominated Premiership in England for 10 years in my position, so it's quite cool watching him and inspiring. So he inspired me for that.
If I could ask another one, I think it's fair to say that this season's seen some really good performances. You think of Bristol away, Leicester away, the first half at Toulon, and there's been some not so good performances, perhaps Newcastle away, Castro, Queens, etc. Are you able to share with us whether that up and down nature is discussed much within the team, and whether you talk about ways to combat it and get more consistency in the season?
Yeah, it's interesting because we want consistency. We need to be consistent. What would help us be consistent in our results is if we are actual the technical stuff, what we're playing. If we were at the level we want to be, then we'd be getting results more consistently. Because we're relying on our mentality being 100% all the time, firing every time, and being so hungry in the game. And it's hard to be consistently 100% at it every game, every season. So we need to be striving for that, but there is some technical stuff that we're still working out. We need to be improving that. But win us games when we're not 100% at it. So there's a balance of those things. But we've changed our attack recently slightly, and we scored 42 points over the weekend, and there's signs that it's growing really well.
So the technical things were more in attack than defence, I'm guessing.
Bit of both. We also conceded 70. But yeah, like we had a little short break, 3 weeks, 3 break not long ago, and we had a slight change to our attack, and it's started to work.
I think it has. Yeah. It has started to work.
Yeah, no, it has. Our attack's been really good last few games, so we'll build on that.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Question for Akina. So, how's the team after the loss of the final? And how's the team, and how frustrating is that you've got to wait so long to kind of try and right those wrongs, or to sort of get back to the horse?
It's kind of a weird one. Like, obviously, the final was a couple of weeks ago now. I haven't really seen many of the girls. Like, obviously, the final happened, and then a lot of them were pretty straight off into their Six Nations camps. So that I've pretty much just been taking my time for myself, I guess. But I think, like, immediately after the game, like, people were sad, like, because, one, it was going to be the last time we were going to see a lot of each other for a long time. But also, like, when you think back on the actual game and how it went, it's like the first half was so good, and, like, we were dominating, we were doing so many things right. And then the second half, like, Gloucester, obviously, they were very good, but we kind of let the game go. Like, to not score in the second half, I think that hurt more than essentially the loss, because it's like we've turned up for 40 minutes and then another 40 minutes it's like flip on its head, like we've just disappeared. So I think for me personally, it was a lot of hurt, because it was like we probably didn't give our best showing of ourselves. But I think as a team, like, obviously the competition, like the PBL, is still quite young, so we don't know, like, we're not quite sure what the next thing is. I don't know, are we having a cup competition in the summer, are we not? Like, we're not sure. So I think for now, it's just like starting to get back into training and just like regroup and like see how it goes. I think it's easy to dwell on the finals, but actually, like, we're going to start a new season now. We might have new players, we might have people leave. Like, it's a clean slate for us. And as a team, I think everyone's pretty much just taking that time for themselves to kind of let it go. Because obviously it's quite sad to lose a final in the way that we did.
Got to remember, we did win a cup, didn't we?
Yeah.
You scored a try in that game, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's been a funny old season, hasn't it? You know, the internationals away almost up to Christmas, and then all of the league condensed into 2 and a bit months or something. Was it harder having the games coming like that, or was it good that they were coming so quickly one after the other?
I think physically it was hard, because you had to pretty much, you're going week in week. And like any niggles, you kind of had to like just manage it, and like at the end of the season you deal with it. But like mentally for me, it was great, because like I didn't have to stop. Like, you could just keep going, like you get in a rhythm. Like, I find when you have stuff like 3-week breaks, it's like you obviously have to switch off, because you need to rest. But then it's like getting back into it, I find is the hardest part for me. Because it's like you let it come down, and then you have to like move yourself back up. Kind of play again. So like going week by week, I found for me mentally was the best.
As a fan, I thought it was great. You know, every week it's one of the difficulties with the men's premiership, isn't it? It stops and starts in time, and a little bit of the momentum is lost. So it was great for us seeing those games today.
Yeah, it's a question for Akina and Louie. It's a bit of a two-parter. During the season trading, obviously you are linked with the men, and they're trading as a squad full-time pretty much, and Akina's part-time. So what does your training in the gym look like between the two of you? How does that differ? And then on the off-season, Do you have a big break when it's maintenance training, or is it maintenance training throughout, and then you get back into it? Is it a guided program, or are you left to your own devices?
I think, I think most gym programs are pretty similar in the sense that you do like your compound lifts, and then you do like your sport specific stuff that will help you with rugby. I think in terms of number of sessions, it's pretty similar. I think the difference is with timing. So like the boys will train in the day, and then a lot of us will train in the evening. I think in season, you're focusing more on like keeping your body healthy. Like you still want to be strong, but it's like a lot of the movements to keep you like functional. And then in pre-season, like obviously we have a bit of a break. Then we have like a bit of a block where you're training like away from the club, but like you might get set stuff. And then in pre-season, that's when you like really go after like working on your fitness or your strength, whatever it is that like you need to work on physically. That's when you really go after it.
Like you said, the maintenance stuff mid-season, like the S&Cs are just trying to tick off like your wonky lifts and like your hamstrings are still going fine and doing them, and hitting like 95% of your top speed is pretty crucial for the back, so they're key on that like once a week. So a lot of maintenance stuff, and then just such a off-season stuff. I think we get a mandatory 5-week off, but 2 of that will be completely off, and then it's running on your own for 3 weeks. Hopefully on holiday somewhere nice, but yeah, we still got to keep moving. You can't have 5 weeks off.
Can you have 2 weeks off on holiday?
Yeah. We'll play a bit of tennis or something. Get one about them. Yeah.
I understand.
Only if it's really silly.
It is really silly. Barry doesn't wear his cap for the whole name these days. He starts off with it and then he takes it off after we mouth. Now, I've been watching the game. I'm wondering why he does that.
Yeah, I'm baffled as well. I'll ask him tomorrow. I will. He's getting sweaty. I've never worn one. Might to do instead, but I'll ask him. I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you.
You've obviously both come in different clubs, gym to Sash. Is there a difference between clubs in terms of ethos and the training, the atmosphere, or are they very similar?
Yeah, big difference from my point of view, like Newcastle to Saracens. Saracens are great, like family club, very supportive. Already got like some of my best mates in. I've only been here for not even the season yet. In terms of the professionalism, the standards and stuff, like different level, you've got internationals who are constantly driving the standards. And, like, you'll be nice and relaxed in the morning, chilled out, but as soon as it's in a meeting, it's like, boom, everyone's 100% focused, or when it's going to skills, laughing and joking, but as soon as the skills start, it's planning, it's like 100%. So the standards are driven really hard by the players, and that's probably the biggest difference I found.
I think for me, the main difference was like the ambitions of the different clubs. And obviously, Gloucester in terms of where they were in the table, where I think our highest finish was 6th. Whereas obviously Saracens, they're pretty much, I think, obviously we finished 2nd last year, 2nd this year. Like, it's, in terms of like the ambition, like Saracens are going to win the Prem, like they want to win the Prem. Whereas like the ambitions that we kind of had at Worcester were like, can we finish 5th? Can we finish 4th? Like stuff like that. In terms of the environment, I think the coaching styles were completely different. Like J-App's coaching style to Alex's coaching style, completely different. Like both good, but just completely different in the sense of like the way that they are as people. And then I think our squad at Worcester was very young. Like I think I was one of the older players and I'm only 26 now. Like, so that was kind of, it was a little bit refreshing actually to come to the Saris and like there was more experience and like a lot older players, and like similar to what Vivi said, the players drive the standards pretty high. Like Lottie, our captain Marnie, like they pretty much set quite a high bar. So it was like coming here was a little bit of a culture shock to be like, wow, okay, like they really want something. So that's what I found the biggest difference is.
Is there any joint stuff that you do together as a squad?
It's
quite separate.
Yeah.
But I think it's a bit of a shame. I reckon there's quite a lot of opportunity to...
Yeah. I think it's hard. Like, the men's and women's teams are in 2 different places. Like, firstly, we train in 2 different places, literally. But then, like, we obviously have people at work and the mentoring in the day. Like, it's hard to kind of marry that up in terms of timing. But like, I think there's definitely like sort of opportunities for us to maybe like explore that in the future.
Yeah, it was good to see a good turnout of the men at the final, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It would help like develop the family club feel as well. Like, you know, it's one club and big on family ethos. So I do think there's room to go there.
Just one to me. Do you give the taller props more trouble from being your height, or do they give you more trouble for being their height?
I don't really think about it. I'm just being me. Like, when I go into a scrum, I'm just like I'm just trying to get my process right. Like, there's so many little small details that you kind of have to get right to make sure that you're like in the best position and stuff like that. Like, it doesn't really matter who I'm against. It's doing my process.
So for me, it's a problem, is it?
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
not.
definitely.
Probably not. I wouldn't imagine so. That ship has sailed. Perhaps last question.
We've got a lot of very good academy players coming through. Who do you think and the one we've got to watch out next season?
Yeah, there is a few. How old are we talking? Like the young school lads coming through, or like?
I'll say under 18. We've got 3 under 18 England players coming through. Who do you think was in box that you look at in the breakthrough next year?
Yeah. Who I think is going to be very good. It'll be tough for them to break through just in the nature of the competition, but scrum half, Asa Stewart Harrison, he's very talented, very fit. Probably, I think he's the fittest of the club already with his Bronco time. Very skillful, good work ethic on him. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes.
Last one.
We're really excited about Women's World Cup coming to you guys in the autumn. Who are you guys looking forward to seeing my players or teams?
Obviously the Red Roses are very successful. Like, they'll be looking to win it. But for me personally, it's Canada. Obviously, we've got quite a few Canadians in our team, but like, just to see how close they pushed them in W3 and then how far they went in the last World Cup, I think there'll be, if it's an England-Canada final, like, I think it'd be quite tasty.
Be good to not see New Zealand there, wouldn't it? Okay, well, I don't know about you. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much for doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
You're listening to the Fezcast, which is proudly sponsored by the Saracen Supporters Association, and I'm Alison Davis, one of the SSA committee. For a £10 annual subscription, the SSA provides our members with monthly newsletters, virtual and in-person player events, away match ticket allocations, and we organise pre-match gatherings at away matches. We sponsor men's and women's players, and we support the Saracens Foundation Track Club on behalf of our members. On top of all that, every year we have a seasonal SSA badge, which is exclusive to members. Where else can you get that much value for a tenner? Join now at membermojo.co.uk/SSA, or come and see us on match day in the Oasis at the Stonex.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, welcome back, everybody, and thank you to the SSA for letting us record their sponsored players' evening the other night. Very interesting, and I hope you found it so. So I'm joined now, as promised, by Barry. Hi, Barry, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. And you?
Yeah, very good. And making a welcome return to the Fezcast is Ed Price from the Cherry Jam Gloucester podcast.
Thank you very much for having me back, and hello to you both. Yes, it's an odd season with stops and starts, and good to be back at Premiership rugby again.
I expect it is, especially for you, having had a good thumping by Bath at the weekend. How was that game? Were you as comprehensively beaten as the score suggested?
Yes, the shortest answer possible. Yeah, a chastening experience. First, we kind of went into it a little bit underwhelmed with the team that was sent out, and it showed, I think, in the first half. Individual errors meant that we were really kind of out of it, and then the second half they just didn't turn up. I think we scored one try second half, but Bath's strength in depth showed, and Gloucester just don't have the bench at the moment to compete. We got a very good starting 15 and a couple of players off the bench, but Bath have got a significant amount more depth than we do, and we just can't cope with that at the moment.
There's a lot been written about Bath's strength in depth, and they're getting even stronger next season. I think they're definitely the best team in the Premiership at the moment, and I wouldn't be surprised if they lift the trophy. Apparently, they've been sort of backloading contracts, so they're signing players with a lower salary in year one than in year three, with the hope that by the time they get to year three, their academy players are going to be coming through. So it might be a 1 or 2 season flash in the pan. We'll have to see.
I do get the feeling, though, this season is the one they have to win, which is going to be eminently entertaining if they don't. But but obviously I'm coming from a Gloucester bias here. But no, you're right. I mean, there's been a lot of spoken about Bath and their salary cap and things like that. And as I'm sure Saracens fans, you probably kind of keeping a close eye on this. From what I can see, and that's what's been sort of mentioned in the media, that they haven't actually announced many outgoings yet, but I believe there are some to come out. So that would suggest that they're probably on balance still within the rules. But it's frustrating because, Gloucester had a fairly significant loss recorded last week before, as did Bath. But Bath's owner is more than happy to write it off, whereas Gloucester are trying as much as they can to sort of try and keep it as close to breaking even as possible. So yeah, we're kind of operating on a different financial footing, which is, well, that's rugby, isn't it?
It is. I hope you can manage it. It'd be good for someone to do it.
Well, we got close last year, but then I think the combination of the reduction in central funding and obviously salary cap increased again, and yeah, there's a few little weird and wonderful things. Our sponsorship went down quite significantly, so yeah, we'll see. We had a big drop in turnover, and I think that's what killed us this year. Whereas Bath was just pure loss. I think they actually increased their turnover, but they had a bigger loss than they did the year before, which is fairly impressive if you think about it that way.
I thought anybody who was really breaching the salary cap now after what happened to us would be mad to do it. And I don't think the backloading of the contracts is technically against the rules. It's just playing with fire a bit down the line, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a very good academy. I mean, that's one thing. Is a bit like Saracens. You've got both clubs have got a very good academy. Lots of very talented players coming through, and I think that's the model you've got to move towards. You've got to be as good as you can with the players you can pick up from the areas you're dealt. Gloucester have got a bit of an advantage in that we've had our area expanded quite significantly in the last 12 months, but at the moment is trying to resource that. That's the challenge for Gloucester. We're now able to sort of pick up players from Birmingham and as far north as sort of Stafford, where previously we had a very, very small area, sort of Gloucestershire and a little bit of Oxfordshire. And what Gloucester did was that we used the Welsh regions as a way to pick up some outstanding talent. We've then added in a few more senior players like the likes of Thomas Williams and Max Llewellyn in the last couple of seasons, which has meant that we're sort of jokingly referred to as the sort of fifth region by some Welsh fans. And obviously because Welsh rugby is in a bit of a dire state, we might be the fourth region in the coming weeks.
Sort of here. Yeah, so it said.
Could also be known as the only region not shortly to be owned by the WRFU, but never mind.
True.
the way it's going at the moment. But to go back to that game at the weekend, I think I'm right in saying you made quite a few changes from the previous week. So looking at this Saturday and then your 4 following fixtures, you're playing the bottom 4 sides after us, as it stands today. Do you think that you might go full strength at the weekend, or do you think we'll see more rotation of the squad?
Well, now that we're out of the Challenge Cup, I see no point really rotating too much. I think we've got to play our strongest side every week. I would expect that will be the case this Saturday. I think we will be playing basically the strongest side we can now between now and the end of the season. Injuries allowing. I mean, we've got a bit of an injury crisis in our back line, not many of our back 3 left standing. You look, as you said, the bottom, we are playing 4 of the bottom 5. I mean, it is a daft thing to say in a 10-team league, but yeah, I would also expect the fact that Northampton are in the semi-final against Leinster probably gives us a bit of an advantage as well, because they're going to be, I mean, we'll play them last game of the season. They'll be probably resting everybody, getting everyone to smash out against Leinster. I'm assuming, hoping that Northampton beat Leinster after their ridiculous tweet that they put out about how the fact they're going to basically in Cardiff already, which was, I think, as well received as you'd imagine. I just feel that this is the best chance we've got for a top 4 in a long time. We've got a lot of players in form. I mean, the weekend showed as I said, we haven't got a lot of depth, and it's the individual errors cost us really in that first half, because we were in it probably for the first 30, and then a slightly iffy try to Bath where, probably was a knock on against Finn Russell, and then some slightly dodgy defending and individual errors in our structures meant that we were out of it. I'm pretty confident that we will be there or thereabouts come the Northampton game, final game of the season. And I think this game against Sarries, if we come out with a bonus point or two, that would probably for most Gloucester fans be seen as a bit of a win. If we won down your way, that would be, I think, fairly extraordinary considering the way that Sarries have managed their squad in the last couple of weeks. The way to get into the playoffs. That's the sort of runs that you go on. So I think it'll be quite challenging for Gloucester to get anything more than a bonus point. I'm confident we'll get a try bonus point because we play some wonderful rugby and score lots of tries, but getting within 7 might be the challenge.
We have got to win just about every game, and this is not the Saracens team of before. This is a Saracens team where you don't know what Saracens team is going to turn up. We've had some really good performances and some less than good performances, and
that's a bit like Gloucester.
Yeah. Well, I think, was it last season when you started to play a more attacking style of rugby and everybody was thinking, what happened to that stodgy, not very good team that was there before? And you'd be brilliant for about half the game and then run out of gas. It seems perhaps this season you're last in the whole game?
I think Bristol was the first time we've gone the whole game. I mean, that was a remarkable performance from start to finish. The intensity was seen from the kickoff. I mean, I think Bristol, if you're going to play the style of rugby that Gloucester are playing, Bristol are almost the perfect side to do that against, because they're so open themselves that when a turnover happens, their defensive structures all over the place. Gloucester are able to capitalise. Teams like Bath, I'd even include Saracens and maybe Leicester, are more challenging. You have to take the opportunities when they come. I'd say that Saracens, Bath, Leicester have that sort of power game that they can go back to and rely on a little bit more, whereas someone like Bristol, it's a case of we're going to just chuck it around and we could blow you out the water in the first 25 minutes and then you're dead. Northampton, a little bit similar. I think where Northampton has struggled this season has been, and Quinns to a point, is they just can't go back to the power game. They haven't got anything really that keeps them in there. If they were able to get a lead and put you under pressure, they're a very difficult team to claw back to because they just can't pounce on your mistakes. Saracens, I've always thought, certainly last couple of years, they play a more pragmatic style. They've got some fantastic players that you can always rely on in terms of creating chances. And I think you mentioned that it's not the same Saracens team as before, but you still got leaders and experience throughout the team. And that in this stage of the season can prove invaluable. I don't think Gloucester quite have got that. So it's almost relying on getting the results and taking the opportunities. That's the key really for Gloucester.
We've just heard a session with Louie Johnson, one of our fly halves. The problem we've had through a lot of the season is that we've been relying on grit and determination to get us through games, and our attack hasn't been very good. And Louis was talking about how over the last few weeks they've been working on new ideas. And I think we've begun to see that since about the Leicester game. Leicester and then the first half against Toulon. Our attack has started to look joined up and seen running lines, etc. So we're hoping that continues against you guys, and we'll see who comes out top that way.
I think that the move to the sort of more attractive attacking style of rugby has been a real breath of fresh air across the league. As you said last year, the stodgy kick style, just box kicking for the sake of box kicking. I mean, it was really not very entertaining, and then you're getting thumped every week as well. So it was baffling, really, from a supporter's point of view, why we were persisting with it, really. There is a sort of hint that George Skivington isn't entirely fully on board with it. There's been a few comments made during games or throughout the season that he's sort of kind of doing it under duress a little bit. I think he's probably a little bit more on board than he was at the beginning of the season. I think it could be a very high-scoring game on Saturday. Gloucester's defence at times is non-existent, but then other times we manage to snaffle and close teams down and are able to limit their chances. It's the daft penalties that kills us. If we give too many stupid penalties away in the sort of the middle third of the pitch, let Saracens into the 22, we're in trouble then. But against Bristol, we really didn't do that, and that's why we were so successful.
You make Gloucester sound almost like Saracens in a way, because we have had that problem with box kicking. There's also been whispers around that it's been our DNA for so long that we're really struggling to move away from that. But now we don't have the players to really do it effectively. and obviously with the law changes this year as well, it's not the weapon it was. And I think we're still struggling to undo that. One thing that I've noticed at games as well is when we have been successful, we've had much quicker ruck speed, and we've got the ball away much, much quicker. If it's slowed up for us, we seem to struggle, run out of ideas and end up box kicking quite quickly. But it'll be interesting on Saturday. It's either going to end up 3-0 to someone, or it's going to end up about 30-43, 42 or something like it. A bit like it was for us at Bristol.
So hopefully, Ed, from what you're saying, you're rubbish at slowing the ball down.
Well, funny enough, I was going to say this is probably one for your listeners to keep an eye on, actually, on the weekend, is Gloucester have alternated throughout the season and even during games of how they defend. So you've got moments where we will basically let you have the ball. You can have the ball, and we're not really going to compete too much. We will then look to start to try and pick off individual rucks as the first half and then into the second half as it goes on. What I found frustrating is we've been most successful when we've actually competed at rucks from minute one. Bristol is a really good example. Leicester at home is a really good example. I think that's the thing. If we play an aggressive style of defence and actually really compete, I think that would put us in a good stead. If we let Saracens have quick ball, we could be in all sorts of trouble. It's what happened against Bath, basically. We didn't really compete in the rucks, and then we gave stupid errors when we had the ball in our hand, and that was it, really. We didn't really have a chance to compete.
I think it was a couple of years ago when you last won at the Stonex. I seem to remember your back row caused us all sorts of trouble that day, and we're just taking the ball off us for fun, and that's one we'll definitely have to watch at the weekend. It is obviously Easter weekend. Will that affect the numbers of travelling supporters, do you think? Generally speaking, Gloucester bring quite a few.
Yeah, it's an interesting one as well because it's also the experiment, isn't it? So it's that sort of double whammy of Easter weekend and the away supporter experiment, which I'll be honest, as you say, Gloucester, we do tend to bring good numbers. So I'm not sure how much of it is going to be the experiment or the fact that it's just an Easter weekend and it's an opportunity to get down to watch Gloucester down at the Stonex. I don't know.
It's very ironic that the experiment is against Gloucester. We've spoken about this before on the show. I'm not sure if you're aware. I help organise the away tickets for our Supporters Association. And Gloucester are one of 2 English Premiership clubs that go out of their way to make sure that we can't sit together. They do everything they can. I mean, for goodness sake, it can't be that they're scared of us sitting together and making a big noise and going up against the shed, because there's only ever a couple of hundred of us. And I wondered whether they're just worried that you've got a high proportion of knuckleheads in your supporters who might get offended at Saracen songs.
Well, it's interesting. I do remember, we're probably talking 10 years ago now, there was an attempted takeover of the shed by what appeared to be a few Barnet supporters.
Barnet?
Yeah, well, it was, for those who remember, and it's kind of remarked upon in at Gloucester every so often, it was in a slightly less dominant period of Saracens history, shall we say. So you weren't quite at the top at that point, but there was like an attempted takeover of the shed. There was a few flags and stuff. Unfortunately for the Saracens fans on the evening, it was a Friday evening, they got a good old stuffing on the pitch. So regardless of how much noise they wanted to make, it's quite difficult when you get in and handed 30-odd point defeat. I'm fairly ambivalent to it all. If it was moving towards you have to have an away end, you have to separate your fans, then I would be very much against it. That's not what rugby values are. That's not what rugby is. I think time immemorial, Gloucester fans have done this for years as well. Where are the Gloucester fans going to be? Where can we get in the biggest concentration in the smallest area, make the most noise? Saracens fans have done it. All the supporters have done it. If clubs are being made to say, right, you have to allocate an area of the ground that if away fans want to sit together, they can do, fine. It's worth trying stuff, I think. But if we're being honest, this is probably not the reason why rugby clubs are struggling. The reason is because it costs too much money to go to the game in the first place. And for a long time, I think this last couple of seasons, it's been a bit different. The entertainment on offer has been pretty poor. I think it's good that you've got a couple of clubs, Gloucester and Sarries, at this weekend, where I think they're going to hopefully play some attractive rugby. It's a bit of a grudge match. You know, Gloucester fans, rightly or wrongly, have got maybe a bit of a chip on the shoulder about Saracens, and I think it's good that Gloucester fans can maybe travel down in numbers and make their voices heard. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm not going, but I'll be watching it on the telly. I've already done my trip to the Stonex this season, and that was for the girls winning
the
PWR. So
I was going to ask you if
I've got to get that in.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you watched the women. I mean, you were very good on the day, I've got to say.
I've been going routinely for the last 3-4 years now. I took my daughter down on for the final. I think, I'll be honest, first 25 minutes, I did have a horrible feeling. Regardless if it's men or women, Gloucester in finals, I mean, obviously the women have been very successful the last couple of years, but when you see a team rushing out to a sort of 19-7 lead, 19-5 lead or whatever it was, it's hard not to have a little bit of a slight concern. But what Gloucester at Hartbury have done very, very well is they've got a really, really good balance between some very exciting back play, but their forwards are just ridiculously dominant. I mean, I don't remember Saracens getting a turnover during the game at all. My only concern was, ironically, something like Alex Matthews getting sin-binned or sent off and getting ourselves into a position where we were going to be under the cosh that way. But yeah, it was a really good day. And I thought the way Saracens did it as well, that women's rugby is a very different spectacle to go and watch. But I thought the way Saracens did everything for the final, they had lots of things around the ground. Yeah, it was really good. Really enjoyed it. And it's just nice to see a team I support winning down there, because I missed the time when we won in the league. I think it might have even been COVID. So
how dare they? How dare they break that tradition? It was at the point where it was almost as good as it could get from us, that from then on it was just the Gloucester power.
Yeah.
And thank you for acknowledging. I think they do a brilliant job at StoneX, both for men and women, in maximising the entertainment value and the atmosphere. I think it's always worth acknowledging.
Clubs are different throughout the league. I mean, Gloucester are lucky, and we acknowledge this all the time. We're very lucky in that where we are, we've got a rugby-only city, pretty much, and we've got Gloucester City Football Club, but they are like level 7. And the sort of the history of Gloucester rugby, it's a working class city with those roots being in the crowd. So it's a very different atmosphere, and Saracens have got to work against countless football clubs, countless other things that people could be doing on a Saturday or a Sunday. And the way that they've built the crowd and built the support over a long period of time is been really, really good. I mean, I only think the only thing from a Gloucester fan would be lovely to go down and go do either the Spurs game, or if they do Wembley one day, just to go and watch Gloucester again in a stadium like that. We were lucky to do the Challenge Cup last season at Spurs. That was a great experience. But having an opportunity to go down, get some cheap tickets or whatever, and do a weekend down in London is always a good one.
Ed, can we have you on every week? Because I sometimes feel like a lone voice with that. It's a very important point you touched on there. I think that the reason why rugby is so big in the West Country compared to anywhere else is that your nearest Premier League football club's in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Whereas, as you say, we've got 3 or 4 on our doorstep, and it's a big issue.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Bristol City get promoted this season, though, how that might change, though. So everyone's kind of keeping an eye on that round here, just to see if that does draw people a little bit more down that way.
I think Mr. Hargreaves Lansdowne is mad to try and develop rugby and football in the same city, because, as you say, if Bristol City get into the Premier League, it will destroy attendances at Bristol Rugby, because loads of people would buy a season ticket there to see Liverpool and Arsenal and everybody else come on a regular basis. And if you're going to 24 football matches in a season, you have precious time left to go and see anything else.
I mean, it would be only one season, so it's not as if it's
well, that is true. That is true.
Yeah. Well, of course, living in Luton, I'm an expert on the one season in the Premier League thing.
I'm a Southampton fan, Barry. So it's like, at this point, I'm just praying for 2 points. This is literally the next 6 games is getting 2 more points.
I don't know, Ed, whether you saw the England women's game at the weekend. I saw the first 20 minutes only when Ireland were doing very, very well. But Zoe Harrison, our fly half, I was very pleased to see, seemed to be playing herself into the World Cup. She had a very good game.
I think Zoe's played very well. I think the balance in the squad is interesting to see. There's a lot of difficult choices to make in terms of that World Cup squad. And we're very biased at Gloucester. We probably have, with the exception of the Welsh girls, we probably have about 10 players ourselves in the side. But I think what's really encouraging is that there's so much experience across that side with, the likes of Marley Packer, who's captain until this year. And I just think that there's a lot of really good talented players. Zoe Harrison, I think, probably should be the number 10, I think, personally. Her kicking ability as well gives her an advantage. I would like to see Emma Singh at fullback, but it's very difficult when you've got someone like Ellie Dunn. And she seems to be playing herself back into form, where I think she had a few rough couple of months post winning World Player of the Year. So, but what an embarrassment of riches.
It really is. I'd like to see Jess Breach at fullback because she's had a stunning end of season for us, and she was on the wing for England, but that extra space at fullback really suits her very well, and we've seen her cut through defences from that position.
Yeah. I think it's a difficult one because you've got these various options where you've got someone like Jess Breach, you've got Emma Singh, you've got Ellie Kildan. They're all different players with different strengths. And how do you maximise that in a squad and in an environment? I'm very much thinking when you come to the sort of knockout stages, quarterfinals, semi-finals, and it could potentially come down to kicking. England are probably luckier than most, and they've got more decent level kickers for the women's game than pretty much every other side combined. So do you then sacrifice a bit of flair for the ability to nail a touchline conversion? It's a difficult one to think. Who cares if you're scoring 8 tries? If you score 8 tries, you're going to win. But if it's a tight one and you're playing the Canadians or whatever, and they're keeping it the scoreboard low, those kicks are going to come into play. So I think what was really encouraging again, though, on the weekend, and England have done this recently, is that they don't panic. You know, Ireland, as you said, played really well first 25, 30 minutes. England went in only winning 7-5 at half time, but just to blow them away second half. And they left again another probably 3 or 4 tries out there. And that's probably the only concern. At times, I think England are a bit profligate in terms of they're not taking the chances. And against a better side, that could come back to haunt them. But I know I'm lucky. I'm going to watch the quarterfinal at Bristol. If England do what they should do, I'm watching the quarterfinal at Bristol, the semi-final at Bristol, and I've got tickets to the final, taking my daughter along as well. So fingers crossed it will be a nice, easy run. And then we'll see another Gloucester girl lifting the trophy in October.
It's the business end when it gets down to New Zealand, us, France and Canada, isn't it, that it's going to get really interesting. And I'm guessing at the weekend it was that strength in depth again that made the difference. There was a few good Saracens girls who came on, and you say there's strength in depth all over the place.
I think one other thing I would say as well is I'm less worried about the French than I would have been maybe 2 years ago. I think it's a 3-horse race. I think it's us, Canada and New Zealand. And I think really, if we're being honest about it, it would require something to drastically go wrong for England to not win it, personally. I think they're just so much better. They've got so many options. They've got abilities of players off the bench that can change a game. And if you think in the last, 4 years, they've only lost, or 4 years, they've only lost one game, which happened to be the World Cup final. And that was mainly because of a red card. If there hadn't been a red card in that game, they would have won it comfortably. And I think that's probably the thing. It's just making sure it's top 2 inches discipline, and they should, I think personally, should win that World Cup at a canter. I'm going to regret saying that, but that's
home advantage should be an advantage this time. And as you say, the one game that we have lost, we very nearly pulled it out of the bag at the very death anyway. Yeah. But it's interesting talking about the different players and the different strengths. I think it's important that we don't overcomplicate it and perhaps fall into a trap that the men's side have a little bit at international level of, well, so-and-so is very good, we must pick them, even if we end up picking them out of position. And I think we need to put the best players in the best positions and leave them in their best positions where it's at all possible. Even if that means upsetting others, we need to have that solid side going into it, because although we've got home advantage, we'll also have the home pressure, which will be massive by the time we get there.
The Eddie Jones theory of having all the best rugby players on the pitch at the same time, regardless of position, I think we can consign that one to the dustbin of history really now. You put your best players in the positions that they are suited to. You can have obviously a bit of flexibility. I think back row, probably back 3 England, but only because England are so blessed with the options they've got. As you said, Jess Breach could play on the wing for England, could play easily full back, could play either wing as well, which people I think sometimes forget there is a difference. And you've even got players like, I don't think she'll end up going in the squad, but Mia Venner, who's been superb for Gloucester this season, played 10 minutes in the final at scrum half, and you barely notice the difference. You know, she's got flexibility if she got picked into that squad. So there's a lot of flexibility, but England are incredibly blessed with having some ridiculously good rugby players in each position. Just pick the ones that are in form, and then everyone's happy because they all get a medal at the end of it.
And no more talk of Ben Earl at centre. I totally agree with you. player I'd like to ask you about is Christian Wade. He seems to be doing well. Is he doing well?
He sort of scored his tries in sort of flurries. There was a rumour, and I think it's been confirmed over the weekend, that he was only on a year's contract with an option for a further year. So I don't know whether he will be staying at Kingsholm. I'd like to see him stay at Kingsholm. I think as an attacking threat, there are very few as good in the league. Defensively, everyone knows his defensive frailties. I'm very much of the opinion that you should always accentuate the positives when it comes to these rugby players. I think it's a frustration where too much focus is on what a player can't do compared to what they can do. But we are dramatically lacking in back three talent, and obviously Santi Carreras is off at the end of the season. We haven't announced any direct replacement. I think the only rumours I've seen so far are kind of younger players, fringe players that might be being brought in. And this is the trick with a salary cap. I mean, do you go all out and give your money to a Hoskin Satutu like player, which apparently again we're rumoured to be in for, or do you go in for a back three player whose impact, obviously Santi's been incredibly impactful this year, but you can't always guarantee that, particularly with injuries. So I don't know. I'm torn. But Wade has been very good, scored lots of very good tries. He'll enjoy the game on Saturday because again the pitch is an artificial pitch. I think he enjoys that pace and that speed and the ability to sort of shift his body and things like that. So I think he'll enjoy it if he's playing.
Yeah.
I wonder whether you'll go after for any of ours, because we've got millions of really good young ones, Tobias Elliott, Angus Hall, Brandon Jackson, and we're bringing Max Malins back. So it's going to be interesting to see how we fit them all in.
I mean, Malins in particular, he's been very unlucky with injuries, and obviously Gloucester were rumoured to be in for him as well. And I think if he can get back to his sort of full fitness, he's obviously going to be a very, very good, dangerous talent. And I don't think anyone in the league would want someone like Max Malins in their team.
His understanding with Elliot Daly was a thing of beauty when he was here before, so we're hoping they can get that back.
Yeah.
That's excellent, Ed. Thank you very much for coming on this Monday lunchtime. And sorry you can't make it down on Saturday, but we'll give you a wave on the telly.
Please do. And all being well, it'll be a Gloucester Saracens final, because I don't really want Bath or Bristol winning it.
I do fear that Bath will be there. They stuffed you and they've stuffed us. Well, you never know. Third time lucky.
There's an Achilles heel to Bath, and Gloucester kind of exposed it in the league game, which is if you can get your back row to really go at the breakdown, they do often leave you opportunities and give you opportunities, to turn over ball. Gloucester got on the wrong side of the ref in the league game. But I think that's their Achilles heel. They seem to go a lot of one-out runners, and then there's a lot of players coming off their feet. If you get a ref who has a view on that, a different view on that, they could be in trouble, because a lot of the way that Bath get their tries from are basically in the 22. They don't create a huge amount normally, except when you have stupid defensive errors. But if you keep it tight, they don't create a huge amount, even with Finn Russell at 10. It's when they're in the 22s when they're really dangerous. So if you can keep it tight and keep them out of the 22, you've got a good chance. And that's why I think it's going to be coming down to they get one game. When you get to knockout rugby, it's one game, one ref, one slightly dodgy decision, one player goes and does a Barno and gets sent off, and then that's it.
Well, on that happy note, we'll say looking forward to Saturday.
Yes.
And may the best North London team win.
Good luck.
Cheers, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
This is the Fezcast.